So most of you know I am Sue Bola with the Serious Play Conference, and our guest today is David Conover from Austin, Texas. And he is a shy guy. I found out rather than wanting to show slides, he said, I'd rather just talk about it, have this be really open-ended and answer questions. And if the audience is too shy to ask questions, Sue, then you just go ahead and ask me some. So that's how we agreed to do it. And I'm going to start by telling you just a little bit about David. Before he started teaching in Texas, he was in the Peace Corps. And after that, he started a few companies, I should say. At least he was an entrepreneur. And then he decided, you know what? I'd like to combine those two professions, and I think I'd really like to teach. And he picked a very unusual school district. Why don't you start by just telling me just a little bit about the school district where you're teaching, David?
Sure. I teach at an at-risk high school in North Austin called Conley High School. And when I say an at-risk school, I'm referring to the fact that the students that attend there are 90% of the students are there on a meal plan. So this is a school that has students that coming from adverse conditions, rough backgrounds, and it's my job to make sure that these students get a job in the go into higher education or get a job in the game design industry or industries that are related to game design and simulations. So
He states that like it's just such an easy goal. He's going to take these kids who are ready to drop out, and he's going to turn them into job applicants. And before we get over, we're going to talk about some of the successes he has. But he doesn't
sure.
just teach one class either. He teaches a 4-year program in game design. Why don't you give a little sketch of just what that 4-year program is?
Sure. So I've got these students for 4 years, and I basically introduced them to themselves for pretty much the first year, which is what I mean is that I'm trying to have the students kind of become much more self-aware of their skills and their talents, and these are hidden talents. I mean, these are ninth graders, and they're just now coming into the classroom, and they don't know much about themselves or the students that are also in the room. So this is a real opportunity for them to discover. And some of the processes that I put in place is that the students take a couple of assessments, similar to a Myers-Briggs of sorts. IBM has a personality analytics program. But the point here is to get the students to become aware of their strengths and their weaknesses, and perhaps they could take those strengths that they're identifying and connect them to a career path of sorts. And so begins the journey, the hero's journey, as it were. But the students are the heroes, and they're the ones that ultimately go on and get free rides to MIT, go on to St. Edwards or Austin Community College or UT or other institutions of higher learning. So that's the end game.
It's really pretty amazing to me that you've actually gotten these kids to go on to school at all. I mean, they were ready to drop out, David. But you're giving them skills. The first year, they're basically getting, soft skills and something, but they're learning something about game design. And but what happens, when did
there's also they're learning about grit and being able to withstand the adverse conditions, because these students are taking a big risk. There's a lot of situations in this kind of environment that really challenge the student, and they have to break out of their cultural shells or their silos, as it were, and they have to really kind of reach across the table at some point and realize that if they're going to be on a team and conquer a project that's brought to the table, they're going to have to learn how to collaborate. And all those.
Tell me a little. Tell me about that idea. Is that you said that you do actually once they have some skills and some familiarity and start to feel like what part of the game design business they might be in, you actually create teams that put together, someone that wanted to do art and someone who wanted to do programming and so on.
That's right. I mean, the whole idea is to have students identify their strengths and then see how they could use those strengths and apply them to a greater picture. And that means that how I run my program is that the students create their own agencies, their own game design companies. And in doing so, they come up with their own company title, their own company vision, their mission statement. They visualize using images the values that represent their company. And they come up with their own slogan. I mean, there's a real through line of entrepreneurism in here, and that's what kind of galvanizes these students, because a real client will come into the classroom, and that's when the rubber hits the road, and the students realize that they're going to form a company, and in doing so, they're going to form little groups, and one student's going to be the project manager, the other student's going to be the programmer, the other student is going to be the graphic artist and the designer. So they're basing their interests based on the assessments that they went under, and they're connecting the career dots. And then the client comes in, and then reality strikes, and their company now has a real-world problem to solve, and they have to create a project in order to solve that problem.
Let me make sure that everybody listening understands this. And by the way, if any of you are listening, you can sign in and say hello, and you can also ask questions, and we'll have David do it. But in a lot of classes that are taught, I mean, I even can think of some in my own field, the teacher makes up some kind of a story or an example, and then we use that. In my case, it was writing, or journalism, or I've seen it done in a lot of fields. You really don't make anything up. You organize these teams to actually work on real little game design things, and I think that's so amazing. Tell us what you mean by that a little bit more.
Well, for example, the projects that I bring to the table are ones that the city of Austin faces, the globe faces. I mean, when I say game design, I mean serious game design, and that's a form of game design that uses a lot of critical thinking. We address global problems, and we attempt to solve these global problems using serious game design, design thinking, and critical thinking. So, for example, if we focus on innovation and infrastructure as a problem, the city of Austin has a problem with traffic. So our students will use some software, Minecraft, for example, and the students will come up with a simulation of the city of Austin and depict that problem that Austin has with traffic. They will come up with their own solutions to that traffic problem. So here these students are collectively as a group, which is student-driven, student-centric. They form a team, and then once again, each student identifies what role they're going to play, and they sit down and they meet with the people from the city of Austin that's involved with the traffic. And they have an opportunity of gaining that real-world insight, and they design and they think and they create and they fail and they prototype. It means the whole design thinking process applied to a real-world problem. I mean, this is also addressing the need for a quality education insofar as, yes, game design is an elective, but it's something that's an extremely important elective because you're really addressing how to implement design thinking and critical thinking as it's a part of delivering a quality education. That's what, as a teacher, I'm supposed to deliver, but I really want to kind of finesse it with some new thinking so that we can prepare these students for year 2020. And I think using design thinking as a means of getting these students to critically think is one of the tools that's in the tool chest that teachers have to have, in addition to some of the other tools that are available to these teachers.
But David, I'm also hearing you. You're not only teaching them things that go along with designing a game, like critical thinking, thinking it through, setting objectives, setting strategies, setting ways to assess it, but you're also making them present. They actually have to go through a very, who to them might be a very powerful official and talk about their project. They're getting stand-up presentation skills, standing on their feet skills, talking skills.
You bet. That's one of the best ways of demonstrating a student's understanding is when they have to present their game idea to an investor, to a venture capitalist, to a entrepreneur, to someone from the game design industry, or ultimately they have to present and pitch their idea to their parents and the administrators of the school. So the best way for a student to demonstrate their understanding of the problem and the solution is as a team and individually. They tell their side of what they learned and how they best learned. And this is the wake-up call that is resounding, because here's the students telling the teachers and the administration, this is how we best learn. And out of the mouths of babes comes the advice that I think we should really consider as a herald, that we have to listen to these students because they're telling us the best practice that we need to consider when we are teaching these students. And when I say best practices, I'm kind of including gamification and game-based learning, and how to bring in virtual reality and AI and robotics and machine learning, and have that be a part of the process as well. I mean, a makerspace that can create and unify all of this is kind of the big idea that we want to shoot for, because it's going to be able to bring together all these unique practices, whether they're involving VR, AI, AR, etc. So, so that's kind of like some of the major themes that I try to implement in my classroom.
Right, David, I'm back. It disconnected me.
Sure, no problem.
That's just
I know you're there.
fascinating. I mean, what a great whole bunch of different things that came out of that one project for the city. Tell us about another one of your projects, and then let's find out what that taught the kids or what that taught someone else.
Sure. One of the games that's really unique that we've developed was the University of Texas. The College of Pharmacy came to us, and they said, is it possible that students can design a game around a topic such as infectious diseases? And, this is an abstract concept, but I have absolute faith in the innovation that my students can provide. Sorry, I've got these reminders going off, sorry. So, so the UT College of Pharmacy, as a client, came to our students and said, we've got a problem. Could you, as a team of game designers, solve this? And I usually count the milliseconds it takes for my students to come up with 6, 10, 15 plausible solutions. But in doing so, we have a series of ongoing meetings where it's kind of like a Scrum and an Agile process. And the students sit down with the client, the UT College of Pharmacy, and after the design thinking process takes place in several iterations, the students come up with a game where you are a nanobot and you're flying through the human body and you're killing off pathogens. And this is, again, the students have never seen or heard of the Fantastic Voyage. So this is purely their own ideation on how to solve this. So once they created the fly-through, I decided it would be rather interesting to bring in the power of IBM's Watson and connect it into the game so we could achieve bringing cognitive learning and cognitive game design into the classroom. So now we're able to have the player, as they're flying through the human body and they're killing off pathogens, you can ask Watson what is a pathogen, and Watson in real time is feeding the player the information about the environment that they are exploring. So Watson in real time is giving you definitions and understandings of the context in which the students created this game. And I think that's really unique because this hasn't been done before, and bringing together cognitive computing and using Minecraft and having these students solve real-world problems is a unique combination.
Actually,
And
IBM's been
it's
quite
very
sorry, but IBM is quite generous about offering teachers the opportunity to use their Watson and robot thing if you contact them too. That's something that we should let everybody know.
yeah, there's an incredible opportunity for teachers out there to take advantage of some of these tools that they have available to them, because truly the challenges for us teachers is to ensure that these students are going to be prepared for the year 2020. And I want these students to know that perhaps some of these jobs that they're pursuing might just be replaced by AI. And these students have to be aware of thinking about having to be responsible to reinvent themselves, because technology is going to really make an impact on these students' decisions on what career path they're going to go. So it's important that these students are aware of the technology and the impending usage of cognition and artificial intelligence, and how that might impact the jobs that they might be pursuing. I mean, they have to understand that some of these jobs don't even exist yet. Some of these titles don't even exist yet. So how do you prepare a student for a job that doesn't exist yet? So you have to really think about how you can bring to the table leadership and blended learning and professional development, and integrate the pedagogy and form it under the umbrella of instructional design. And hopefully you can apply this in your career and using the technology in education. So there's a lot of layered thinking that the teacher has to go through. But at the same time, the students are playing, and it's all play-centric. And that's what's unique about this, is because you've got the engaged student that's really loving the fact that they're problem solving and using a game to present that solution, and they're going through the design thinking process, which once again allows failure in the classroom, which separates this classroom from the others, because in a core course you really don't have the opportunity to fail, and failure is essential to the lifelong process of learning. So the sooner we can have these students understand that if you're going to fail, fail big, fail hard, but iterate. And that's the environment that these students need to be accustomed to, because that's what they're being hired for, is their ability to be social, their ability to think and problem solve, and to be entrepreneurial, and think abstractly, and be able to figure out how to use algorithms I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to bring in some unique disciplines, but as long as it's under the umbrella of play, it'll be accomplished because the students are engaged and immersed.
Wow, great statement. Do you want to give another example? I know some of your kids have been helping a hospital in Austin.
Sure, that's one of the highlights of where we can take game-based learning and kind of bring it to home and see how it can resonate in our local ecosystem here. So, for example, some of our students are working with the Dell's Children's Hospital, and in doing so, these students are designing games that are addressing some real serious issues when it comes to life sciences and health and the use of the internet. So imagine at-risk high school students designing games for children at a children's hospital, whereby the student or the child is going to remember to take their medication, or to have a better conversation with their doctor, or to become more mindful and learn how to transform stress into resilience. I think there's a lot of these children at these hospitals under a lot of stress, and our students are coming up with games that will reduce the stress for these students. And I think that's incredible, because these are at-risk students exploring the usage of AI and VR, but they're coming up with the patient's journey, and they're identifying with the children and having them play the games. And now our students are exploring interface design, and these are topics and skills that you wouldn't find in a normal classroom setting. And that's what's unique about what this global classroom that we've created offers, is that we're bringing in these technologies, we're allowing these students to play with them, but it's not just students in a 4x4 classroom. This classroom is also connected to other countries and other classrooms.
Talk about that.
So
Talk about that.
imagine, well, sure. There are a number of countries and a number of institutions that are very interested in how they can get involved with tapping into this kind of reservoir of innovation. For example, the U.S. Embassy from Lithuania just contacted me, and they would like to bring game design into their country because their students, their at-risk students, are using games to learn about English. But simultaneously, they want to also learn the high-tech skills to get jobs in the high-tech industry that's now involved. It's now being set up in Lithuania. So here's an opportunity for the usage of game design and simulation, and using it for social good, and connecting my group of students in my classroom with a group of students in Lithuania, and we can collaborate together and address social issues like fake news or propaganda. We have that issue here, they have that issue over there. Wouldn't it be interesting if our students designed a game or discussed this game in this kind of global classroom, and see what they would come up with as a solution to addressing the problems of fake news or propaganda? Or how are they going to collaborate together and learn the skills that's going to allow them to explore computer science, which is going to let them get further experience in developing those skills that'll get them the jobs that the high-tech industry is looking to hire for. So how can we create a maker city or a maker university or a maker space that connects these global dots? And it's not just in Lithuania. This could be done in Scandinavia or Norway or Italy or Hong Kong or Kenya. There are a number of countries that are excited about getting involved in what we're doing, because I think we would kind of setting an example of how to bring in innovation and artificial intelligence and VR, but you're immersing the students in an experience that they're also creating, empowering them to explore sustainable cities and communities. That's incredible. And I think, once again, this is the kind of environment that we need to establish as a flagship and model it for others to copy. Picasso says, or William Blake says, a good poet borrows, a great poet steals. So leverage what we're doing here with my district and with the city of Austin, and what we're doing with IBM and Microsoft and Google, because it takes a global village to raise a child. And imagine if we had a global smart village. What could we do with that kind of capability and that kind of technology?
David's going to be talking.
These are the considerations.
David's going to be talking more about this at the Serious Play Conference in July. And I mean, basically, he's open to hearing from any of you, and as are many other teachers, to try to work together to just help the world understand that when kids play as they are learning, they're much more engaged. So, and David's having tremendous success, not just in keeping these kids at school, but you already have some examples of graduates of your program, right, that have gotten jobs or internships. Haven't you already, David?
Sure. My students go on to graduate school, and what's unique about it is some of these students come back to my lab and they want to pay it forward, and I find that really satisfying, and it's really complimentary, because you have students that have gone on, achieved success, but they did not forget where they came from, which was this at-risk environment where they had the opportunity of failing and exploring and discovering. And I don't care if they didn't pursue game design. Game design is a very sticky subject. It can connect to scientific visualization. It can connect to artificial intelligence. It can connect to cybersecurity. It can connect to a number of related arenas. But that's what I want them to do, is explore the connectivity. But the point here is that when they do, and they come back and they share it with the students, and they become mentors. The student that remains a student is an insult to the teacher. So when the student comes back as a mentor to help the other brothers and sisters out, to give them a leg up and give them insight on how to survive, that to me demonstrates that the cycle is working and it's complete, and there's a lot of care that takes place, and that's what you really need to have in place when you're in an at-risk environment, is to have that care and that understanding that it's a safe place for you to fail, collaborate, to mingle. It's all about creating a culture. And when you see that culture paying it forward, I think you see that the ecosystem is working, and we just need to continue to prime that pump.
Well, David, this has really been an interesting webinar. I thank you so much for participating, and I look forward to hearing your workshop also at the conference in July. And I hope everyone that's listening will, pass this lecture, this discussion on with this webinar with everybody else, because you really made it live. You really showed, what can be done for disbelievers, and, not with bright students who are ready to study STEM, but with kids that really didn't even want to be in school. And your graduates are
Right.
going on to college, and that's very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're quite welcome, and I look forward to the conference and meeting people and discussing further ideas with people at large and the tribe, etc. So I look forward to collaborating with the same mindset, and I really am anticipating that. Thank you very much, Sue, for the invite.
Okay, thanks, David.